One of the most controversial things I've ever seen is Star Wars. It seems like the age of the fan dictates their opinions for the most part. I often see fans who grew up with the original trilogy siding one way, and fans that grew up with the prequels siding another. I love Star Wars, and full disclosure, I grew up with the prequels. Well, I grew up with all 6, but the prequels were still being released when I was born, so they were the new ones and the most marketed at the time. Despite this, I always loved all 6. The first video game I ever played was LEGO Star Wars 2, based on the original trilogy. Anyways, perhaps the most hated part of Star Wars, at least for a time, was the special editions. It seemed unanimous that those were far worse than the originals. Even when the prequels are much more hated than they are today, at least they could just not watch those, whereas the special editions were the only way they could watch their beloved movies from their childhoods, or at least we were led to believe. In my opinion, the talks of the original trilogy being released as the theatrical cuts doesn't make much sense to me. It seems as if people want the theatrical versions but upscaled to fit modern resolutions, but that also changes the movies. The actual theatrical versions have been released in 2006, and the resolution was worse and the picture was small, but that is how it was. That is the theatrical version, no changes. Well, if you want to watch the original trilogy in beautiful 4K, then you will have to watch the special editions. I think that all changes made were not created equal. Some are better than others, and today I'm going to put them on a tier list to see, in my opinion, what works and what doesn't. The tiers go from S, the change makes complete sense and is better than the original, to F, this change sucks and makes no sense. And in the middle are changes that don't really matter much either way. With that out of the way, let's get to the rankings. Starting off, I want to get to the most infamous change. Who shot first? The change made was instead of Han just shooting Greedo, Greedo shoots Han first and then Han shoots Greedo. And in my opinion, this goes straight in the middle. One of the main problems people have with this change is it changes Han's character, because he shot Greedo in self-defense as opposed to just shooting him in cold blood. But in my opinion, Han's life was always in danger regardless if Greedo shot or didn't shoot. Think about it, from the moment the Greedo scene starts, Greedo has a gun to Han, which obviously implies that Greedo is willing to kill him right there. Han shooting Greedo is done so he doesn't get shot himself. Do you really think Han would shoot Greedo if he wasn't being threatened and didn't have a gun to his head? I don't think so. Whether Greedo shoots or doesn't shoot, it doesn't really matter because he could shoot Han at any time. And if he doesn't shoot him, he could be a dead man. Especially given that Greedo basically told Han that it's too late to settle any of his debts and Greedo is going to kill him to collect his bounty. Greedo shooting does not change the context to the scene or Han's character, so it goes in the middle. Next, I want to talk about the changes to Mos Eisley, and this one is a real mixed bag for me. On one hand, the idea to make it a more lively city where more is going on is a great one in my opinion, but on the other hand, the execution can be hit or miss. Yeah, some of the effects are outdated, but that doesn't really bother me that much. One that is pretty fucking stupid to me is when the big green thing walks right in front of what we're trying to see at a slow ass pace. Like, bro, can you please fucking move? I'm trying to see. It's like when motherfuckers don't care that you're occupying the TV and will just vacuum right in front of you and taking their time. So this one goes right above the makes no difference tier because I do believe it adds something mostly good and some stupid. How about the rock in front of R2? People go fucking apeshit over this one and I don't understand it. Does this rock really interfere with your viewing experience? Why? I've heard people say that it doesn't make sense that it can fit in there, but is it really out of the realm of possibility that there's another entrance in this little cutout? I mean, look at the empty space here. Could he have not have entered through this side and just hid behind this rock? I believe the change was made so that R2 was not noticed until he starts making noise, whereas he would be pretty fucking visible before and he could have easily been seen before this. I really do think this change does add something, but it isn't a big deal either way, which is why I'm putting it in the same tier as the previous change. Now for the deleted Jabba scene. This scene builds off the Greedo scene, however it does rehash some of the same information as the Greedo scene.
Even I get bored sometimes. Do you think I had a choice?
Even I get bored sometimes. You think I had a choice?
I think this scene doesn't really add much, but I understand why it was put in. The only reason it was cut was because the special effect for Jabba could not have been done for the original scene. So they shelved it and put some of the information from this scene into the Greedo scene. But now I feel like with both scenes in the movie, it can get a bit redundant. Also, the first version of Jabba is god fucking awful, though the second one is much better looking as he did in The Phantom Menace. In all, I'm putting this right below the makes no difference tier. Here's one change that I hear mixed opinions on, the Stormtrooper corridor scene. I actually really like this change because I believe it's not only funnier, but it adds more context to it. Before, the Stormtroopers had little reason to run from Han because they outnumbered him pretty significantly. Yeah, maybe they wanted to lead him to a dead end so they could get the jump on him, but either way it'd be like 7 against 1. I mean, they did lead him away from his friends, but even then I think the context of the new change is just better to me. The Stormtroopers led Han to a hangar with hundreds of Stormtroopers on purpose to really outnumber his ass. I do like both versions, but the change is just better. A tier. I'm gonna keep this one short, but the X-Wing attack on the Death Star is just a great change in my opinion. The effects hold up, it's more intense, and it really adds something to this battle. S tier. Moving on to the Empire Strikes Back, let's talk about the Wampa scene. I really like this change. The special edition adds shots of the Wampa and it looks great. The suit is fantastic, and this was the way the original scene was meant to play out, but they couldn't get the Wampa to look good, so they made it to where you couldn't really see him at all. I've heard people saying not seeing the monster is scarier, but I really disagree. I think that seeing the monster gnawing on some meat and then walking towards Luke as he narrowly escapes with the Force in his lightsaber is much more suspenseful. Yes, the Jaws effect does work, but here I prefer the change. Another S tier. We're about to hit 3 S tiers in a row now because we're talking about the Emperor hologram. This is just a great change. The first hologram just isn't what we know, and replacing the Emperor with the real Emperor with Ian McDiarmid, who played Sidious in every other movie, is fantastic in my opinion. I also do like the changed dialogue. It adds a layer where Darth Vader seems to be lying to the Emperor because of his real plan of overthrowing him and turning Luke to rule themselves without him. Vader would obviously know that he has a child because Anakin knew Padme was pregnant. Palpatine did make it seem like Vader killed Padme before she gave birth, but I believe Vader knew all along that Luke was his son and was hiding this knowledge, given what we know about the Force and its connections with feeling and family. So yeah, S tier. The Boba Fett change is a bit weird for me because in the context of the whole story, yeah, Boba Fett is a clone of Jango, so it is necessary for the change to be made. I don't even dislike the change, but I just really liked how Boba sounded before. His voice was so badass, but like I said, I understand it, and I don't think it's a bad change, so we'll put this one in B tier. For another S tier, Cloud City, it looks great. Moving on. In Return of the Jedi, most of the changes were made in the first act with Jabba's palace and the sail barge, so to get right into the former, let's talk about the Jedi rock scene. Call me crazy, I really don't care, but I like this change. First off, this song is dumb catchy to me. I understand those who call it annoying, but I am not one of those people. This sequence is just better than it was in the original. The original was meant to be more like the special edition, but pressed for time and a proper way to do it, it was slimmed way down. People say the CGI is very distracting, but I'm sorry, the original puppet just looks like shit and is way more unbelievable to me. Yeah, they filmed something that was really there, but either way, they're both special effects and the puppet just isn't as believable to me. So fuck it, I don't care. A tier. I'm gonna make the Sarlacc one quick. They added a beak, that's it. All it does is make it seem more like a living creature than just a pit, but still to me it doesn't add or take away from anything. So you know what that means, doesn't matter tier. The final change I'm gonna talk about is the Darth Vader nose scene. People say it's over the top, and maybe it is, but it's just as over the top as many other scenes. I'm not gonna lie, this change doesn't bug me that much. I'm fine either way. However, I do slightly prefer the silence. It just gives the sense that he's really thinking about what move to make and you obviously see what he decides. So for the final ranking, C tier. So with that being said, here's the final ranking. I don't expect everyone to agree, nor do I want people to. This is my opinion, and you're entitled to your own. I realize there were many changes I didn't rank, but I wanted to get most of the big ones done. Maybe I'll do a part 2 ranking some of the other ones, but until then, I hope you enjoyed the video. Peace.